And today,
Now we're live. Yep.
today, interestingly, we're going to be talking about winning and playing tennis in the metaverse. The future is here today. But before that, Andrew, news from yesterday or news from today?
Yes, so Andrew, part of the winning AO and reporting from Sydney. A lot of the top seeds are through as normal, and just for our viewers, if they can find a simpler sort of route to where they're going, that'll prepare their bodies. They don't want the big five setters. Some of the top seeds have had five setters, but the ones who are having a bit of an easier run are getting ready for the second week. Jack Sinner going well. Tsitsipas through. Tonight, our Aussies are on court. So we've got Alex de Minaur and Storm Hunter, so our top boy and girl. And a lot of the Australians have, I'm very proud that they've, other than when you don't win, they've got a great attitude off court. And a lot of the other players are doing that. They're playing in a good spirit.
Do they have a heat advantage, your Aussies, or not?
I would say if it gets hot, that's our home court advantage. Those courts can get very hot, even to the point of 40 degrees. And home court advantage means that you're probably used to playing that heat. Imagine if you're coming out of Canada and it's snowing and then you're coming into extreme heat. That's severe challenge to your body. Yeah.
Having said that, it's a global sport, so they're always, globe-trotting airplanes somewhere.
They are, but they're trying not to get into the cold months. I played in China in the freeze, and your fingers, you can feel it. If you do a mishit, you can feel it. It's terrible.
Oh.
So you warm up.
Let's talk about Emma Raducanu just for a second, to just see not just what lessons, but what training amateurs could do. So she was down and out in the second set, and then rallied and played amazingly. Had a chance to serve out at 5-3, and her opponent broke serve for 5-4. She won the second set, and then she lost the third 6-4, and at some stage she was having difficulty just getting the ball in court. What would you have done, Andrew?
At any stage, you don't want to be pushing, and everyone's got their own style, but just try and play your own game, but play through the middle of the court. Keep away from the edges, going cross court, longer court, lower net. Use your percentages, and your opponent will know this as well, but at least you're forcing them into one more shot. That's important.
Yeah. Djokovic, come tie breaks, that's what he does. Deep down the middle.
He sticks to the rules. Jams them up. He serves into their body and makes it awkward. Yep.
And before we get into the metaverse, it would be discourteous not to mention Dan Kiernan's women's students, Gabby and Erin, that won their first round match, seeded for 6-1, 7-5. So
yes. Look, fantastic. We were live talking. Oh, look, it was amazing. We called set point with our live view, and then they've gone on to success. That's past. That's in the past. Now they're on to the next team, and they'll be looking who have they got to play and coming up with counter tactics. Yep.
Great. So we'll follow their progress, and hopefully the US Open champions will be AO winning champions. Who knows? Metaverse. You're techie. You were one of the first in. Describe what it's like to play tennis and hit the ball in the metaverse.
All right. So what happens is you don't need a tennis court. You put your goggles on, and your sensors pick up a tennis court with fencing. Everything is real. Our next speaker has made it so real that you feel as though you can feel the ball, you can hit it in the middle, you can feel spin. So all the sensors, you can hear the ball, but you can feel it. So the toggles in your hand vibrate when you hit something. So your sensors are getting all exactly what happens in real life. And with Gregory, we had a match in Sydney all the way to Austria and played in the metaverse on a tennis court. So you can play anywhere.
Isn't it amazing? Because I was shocked when you put the headphones on, how your brain is fooled and you really are there. You're transported. It's quite extraordinary to me.
Yes, look, Google, Oculus, a lot of people have been playing with this. They're still doing a lot of research on how it affects the brain and things like that. So we do it in small doses, but it's playing with your senses and making you feel as real as possible on a tennis court. You're not running as much, so you might be a little bit more stable. And you can be on a swivel chair, so you're moving around, you're feeling good, but we just got to be careful of running into walls if you're in an enclosed area.
Yeah. So when you play, Gregory, because I know it can replicate Australian hard court, French clay, Wimbledon grass, I know that. Can it, and it can replicate wind and all the rest of it, can it replicate temperature? I probably doubt it.
It can replicate temperature because the ball can be controlled. The wind can control, so they're externals. I'll give you an example of one thing that was controlled. You had John McEnroe in real life with his goggles on, playing John McEnroe from 20 years ago on the US. Yes, yeah. And very real.
Goodness me. As you say, Gregory, with his huge investment into ball physics, replicates pretty damned accurately real tennis. So now you've got a tennis court anywhere, everywhere, all the time, playing friends anywhere in the world, plus proper tournaments and competitions. Where do you see it going?
Look, I can see a very big future. He's done an amazing job. I'm going to call this recreational play as well. So there's tournaments and it's very real. Yeah. But imagine this. Imagine you playing Rod Laver from the past. All right, you know, like one of our top Aussies who won 2 Grand Slams, and just amazing. So you can actually play someone from the past.
No.
So limitless, yes. You can it's all our algorithms go into the computer, and that's where I can see it going. I can see holograms happening, where you can see some of the movies where a person's hitting with someone just in a room. So it'll keep going forward. Yes.
And can you, I presume you can, train strokes properly?
Definitely. Yes, I could. Let's say if we put in the computer, I'd like Stan Wawrinka's backhand. I'd like Roger Federer's forehand, Federer's forehand. I'd like the spin of Nadal, which is a left-handed, and I press a button, and can I swap it over to a right-hander? And then it gives me a model that I can actually put the goggles on and make like a skeleton view, and to make sure that I am using the right motions to make the right actions.
So do you see this as a parallel to the physical world of tennis courts? Just massively convenient, do it at home, anywhere you like, put your goggles on, improve your tennis with top coaches and or play matches. Do you see it as a parallel sport or competition too?
Look, I can see it. Tennis will always be tennis. VR tennis is VR tennis. But imagine this. COVID, go back a few years, COVID, and they couldn't train. And everyone's in their room with their goggles training. It's close. Like, all right, there's a point where it can happen. A lot of these people were training against their mattresses against the wall. They were hitting high velocity shots into a mattress in their room just to do their training.
Wow.
So VR tennis definitely around and high investment.
And I know Gregory's usage doubled over the Christmas period. How about that?
Yeah. I've got my own studio as well, and VR and AR, augmented reality, virtual reality, they're all reality now, and you just choose what experience you want.
Beautiful. So we have a conversation coming up with Gregory Gettinger, who
Excellent.
I think is the undisputed leader in the world of proper tennis, in the world of metaverse. And both you and I met Gregory when he was just starting off, and now he's within an inch of getting e-tennis into the Olympic Games as a demo sport, which is quite extraordinary. So our conversation with Gregory is about, is there a difference between training to win match play in the real world compared to the metaverse? We'll get Gregory's take on, is there a difference, and if so, how do you train it?
Yeah, look, it's you look in war situations, they have all these games where young boys, are playing this and challenging their skills and strategies. And the VR world or the computer world is training someone to perform in a real world. So
Yeah.
my answer is yes, and I'm sure Gregory will give you a lot more information.
Great. So before handing over to Gregory, just to say that in Winning AO, we are focusing on all things regarding to winning. So yesterday we did ladies doubles. Today we're doing the metaverse. Tomorrow we're doing plus 35s with Aditya Khanna, who is a very successful entrepreneur and spent 7 years out of the game building his business, and then came back. And he's rocking it in the plus 35 ITF world. And the reason he is, and it's an extraordinary conversation, I loved it, is about love and passion, and bringing love and passion onto the training court, love and passion into the match court, and being just supremely grateful of being in the battle, regardless of the outcome. So it's a great, great conversation. Many golden nuggets to be shared. So everybody, I commend you to turn up tomorrow and watch Aditya. In the meantime, Andrew, thank you for Sydney, and over to Aditya Khan. Sorry, Gregory Gettinger. My little brain got days wrong.
Right.
See you then.
Right. So today at the Winning Australian Open, we have Gregory Gettinger, founder, chairman of VR Mobile Learning. Is that right, Gregory?
VR Motion Learning.
VR Motion Learning. You would have thought after all these years, I might get the name of your company right. My apologies. So we're here really to talk about what is the difference, if any, on winning in the metaverse compared to winning in the physical real world. And first of all, Gregory, before we get on to that, just talk us through the metaverse and tennis and your uniqueness, which is about ball physics, if I remember correctly.
Yes. So we have developed tennis esports, and tennis esports is a VR tennis app. And what happens there is you put your headset on, which is a MetaQuest 2 or MetaQuest 3 headset or MetaQuest Pro headset, and you are immersed into the virtual world, and you are basically getting beamed like Scotty in Star Trek on a virtual tennis court. And the great thing on this virtual tennis court is that you have to do all the authentic tennis movements and strokes as you do in real life. So our big unique selling point of the product is that we mirror the real ball physics into the virtual world, so that you really have to do the right motions. So it's not like Wii or anything else where you just wave your hands and you have a serve of 150 kilometers. No, you have to do the right motions. That's why we called VR Motion Learning, because that's where we started with. It was a research program where you had to learn the right technique with the technology of virtual reality. So that's where we come from, and basically it's out of that we made matching tournaments and training at home. So it's a real tennis app you can use at home, out of your living room, and you can play anyone in the world.
And having done it, and I confess, for the reasons you know, I haven't been hitting balls for 2 years or so. When I last did it, it was quite extraordinary how, when you put the headset on, the brain is totally fooled, and you really are in the metaverse on a virtual tennis court. Feels like, tastes like, kind of the real thing. And you guys with your ball physics, talk us through the ball physics and how much you've improved over the last couple of years.
Well, that's a long story, because we are basically researching that now 4 years in cooperation with the Technical University. So every stroke you do on the tennis court and our virtual court is computed in the cloud. And you have no idea how complex tennis is, with all the spins, velocities, speed, and whatsoever, to really compute the right stroke, which mirrors the real world. But that's necessary, otherwise it's going to be a game and not a sport, and we want to be a sport.
Okay, and it does, because I know, and you've improved since then. When the racket hits the ball, it does feel as though the racket is hitting the ball, and the ball does have the bounce and the type of spin on the different surfaces that you've managed to recreate in the virtual world, which is an extraordinary achievement, Gregory. Well done.
Yeah,
you.
not only that, we have all the different surfaces like grass and hard court and clay, but we also have different temperatures. So we have different heights, because that all influences the ball physics. And it's even more, the balls have different physics, and the rackets have different physics, and it's quite complex, the whole thing. But we got there, and it's fun. We have thousands of players, playing every day, and thousands of matches going on.
Okay, so talk us through, not necessarily I can play anybody anywhere in the world from my living room, but the competitive matches you have. And I know you're kind of gearing up for the Olympic Games and other things. So when you're in a proper arena tennis match, how do you train to be a winner in the metaverse compared to the real world?
Well, the great thing in a metaverse is that you can simulate anything you want, which is hard to simulate in real life. Because if I train in real life, I have nobody watching me, nobody cheering me up, nobody shouting at me. I'm pretty much alone on the court, because nobody wants to see me playing tennis. But if you really want to get into a stress situation that you have thousands of spectators, you only can do that in the metaverse, day by day, whenever you push the button, and you can get that atmosphere, you can get that sound, you can get that thrilling thing. And that's something you can train in the metaverse, but you cannot train in real life every day. So that's just one point, which is the advantage of the metaverse versus the real life.
Okay, and you get the feeling of pressure, whether it's scoreboard generated, crowd, big point, that those milliseconds that determine who wins and who loses. You get that, do you, in the metaverse?
Well, it's even worse, because in real life, a tennis game takes 2 or 3 hours, whatever it takes, and you have many opportunities to come back. You're back 5-0, and you still can win the game. In the metaverse, it goes so fast. You only have basically a tie break. It goes till 10, and if you don't concentrate, these few minutes of the tie break, very much, you're going to lose it quite fast. It goes so fast. So you have to concentrate much more. You have to focus much more, and you have to train your brain to be very clear. But it's more like a sprint than a marathon.
Okay, and what's big? What's coming up for you in terms of tournaments?
Well, we had a few tournaments. The first one we had was the National Bank Open in Canada, where we were at the ATP Toronto and the WTA in Montreal, and the finalists were playing the finals from Montreal and Toronto simultaneously, and we broadcasted it live on YouTube. So that was the first tournament we have done. Then we have been at the US Open, we have been at the Asian Games, and the last tournament we have concluded was the Erste Bank Open, the ATP in Vienna, where we had the final even at the center court of Vienna. It was just after the real quarterfinals. We were having the finals, and that was funny because in that format we had the two best people, the best two local people playing the semifinal. There was one coming in from Germany, one from Austria. They were playing the semifinal, and the winner was playing then the final virtually against the winner of the global qualification. And that was an Indian guy, Vimal, and he's a tennis pro. So they played virtually live on the tennis court, India against Austria, in front of the spectators, and that was so funny. It was so funny, and the internet worked, and everything was fine, and it was just great. And you could see actually on the other side how nervous the players were. Even though they were, the Indian guy, he told me afterwards, and I think he even recorded it. He was so nervous, playing out of his living room this final. It was really fun. Really fun.
Oh, just so fantastic, Gregory. I love it. Have you got any pros playing or former pros?
Well, we have now actually tennis esports pros. The Indian guy, he makes his living almost out of tennis esports with all the prize money. So we are establishing our own tennis pros out of the tennis esports, and it's getting bigger and bigger. We just over Christmas had 6 times the user base. It was unbelievable what happened now last 3 weeks. It just exploded, the whole thing. It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. So for everybody watching, you are watching and listening to Mr. eTennis, because it's going to be huge. And I knew you when you were humble beginnings, just starting off, and you had a vision, and that vision's going to happen. How's your backhand, which is the most important thing?
Still lousy.
Still lousy, but enough to win. Gregory,
Yeah.
thank you for your time today, man. It's really appreciative. I wish you all the best in the future. Watch this man's tracer. It's going to go places.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.